Hi, my name is Emily Kile. Welcome. We're going to talk today about the differences between special needs trusts. There's a lot of confusion about that, so give me a second to share my screen and then we will get started. Okay, so hopefully you can see my slide about special needs trusts. So the goal of a special needs trust is, well, let me start with saying it's a special kind of a trust because the money in the trust, if it's properly drafted, does not count against SSI benefits, Altex, and DDD services. And so it's an extra bucket of money so that we can pay for the things that Altex doesn't cover. It's not an ABLE account. They're two totally separate things. In an ABLE account, you're still going to have a payback like a first party trust, which we're going to talk about in just a second here. You're limited on the deposits by the amount of the gift tax exclusion, which in the year of 2023 is $17,000 a year. Person has to have been disabled prior to age 26, but you can have an ABLE account and a special needs trust, either a first party, a third party, or a pooled. So let's get to that. So the easiest way that I can think of to explain to you what the difference is between first party trust and third party trust, and then a pooled trust could be a first or a third party trust, is think about you don't put your left shoe on your right foot and you don't put your right shoe on your left foot. So we don't have a choice most of the time about which bucket we're going to put the funds in. So I wish we had better words for these, but a first party trust, special needs trust, is a trust where it is the beneficiary's money. So what does that mean? That could mean that the beneficiary received an inheritance outright. So grandma said to my son, Joey has autism and Joey receives benefits through SSI, DDD, and Altex. That's an outright distribution to Joey. Those funds would need to go into a first party special needs trust in order for Joey to retain his benefits. There is a payback to the states that provided Medicaid services that's required by federal and state law. So we don't have a choice. Just like you got to put the right shoe on the right foot, we don't have a choice about lots of things in first party special needs trusts. If the person is on Altex, we're required to report it to Altex, and we have to do something called anticipated disbursements, which is like a budget for how are we going to use that money each and every month for 12 months. And then when it's time for your renewal, Altex will ask you for all the bank statements associated with the account. If you've been using a TrueLink card with the account, they'll ask for that information as well so that they can make sure you stayed within your budget. You can update your budget anytime you want to. You just have to resubmit it to Altex. They have 45 days to approve, or if you don't hear from them after 45 days, it's deemed that those distributions you asked for are approved. Remember, only use the money in that first party special needs trust for the benefit of the beneficiary. We don't make gifts to other people out of that. We don't pay for other people's expenses, except if the beneficiary is going to travel and they can't travel alone, you can use money in the trust for a second person, a companion, to go with them, including all of that companion's expenses on the trip. If your person needs two people, you need to make sure you get permission from Altex first that you need two people along with a doctor's letter saying why they need two people instead of just one person to travel with them. But you can use that trust to buy clothes. You can use that trust to pay for their cell phone, apps, movies, over-the-counter supplies, pretty much anything. If it's for medical expenses, again, you need special approval from Altex if the person's on Altex. For SSI, you have to report the trust and its funding to Social Security, but they're not going to ask you how you spent the money. Only Altex is going to make sure that you're spending the money properly. So again, if it's the person's money, they received an inheritance directly, or maybe they got a personal injury settlement and they're on benefits, this is the kind of trust we're going to use. And we can't use these trusts if the person is age 65 or older. Then we have our third party special needs trusts. These are the kind of trusts that you do with your estate planning attorney. So it might be a separate document, which is what we recommend, might be part of your will, might be a subtrust of your trust. This is money that somebody left directly to the trust. We skipped over our beneficiary and said, Grandma said, the share for Joey goes to the Joey Supplemental Needs Trust. It skipped over him, but it went into a trust for his benefit. Those are third-party special needs trusts, supplemental needs trusts, special care trusts. I don't care what you call them. Those are the kind of trusts where we say that the beneficiary doesn't have direct access to the money. The trustee does. The trustee has discretion about what they're going to spend the money on, all of those things. We don't have any payback to the states that provided Medicaid services. So Joey's special needs trust that grandma set up for him could say when Joey passes away, anything left over goes to his siblings. No state payback. You can be any age and set up a third-party special needs trust for somebody. This is the plan ahead. This is what you absolutely should do if you have a loved one who is on benefits that are otherwise impacted by income or assets. And you can have a third-party trust that everybody puts their money in. So maybe Joey's parents set up a third-party special needs trust and you're Auntie M. And so your estate plan says that my money when I die goes to that third-party supplemental needs trust that his parents set up. His grandma can add money to it. Money can be added during life, or it can get funded after the person dies. So lots and lots of flexibility. You can also have a third-party supplemental needs trust that is over more than one disabled beneficiary. So maybe you have more than one child who's receiving benefits through All-Tax DDD or is on SSI. You can have one third-party special needs trust for all three of the beneficiaries or two beneficiaries, and the trustee can then use that pot of money as each beneficiary needs the money. For a first-party special needs trust, only one beneficiary. And then we have pooled special needs trusts, our third category. Those are run by charity or charitable organizations. They've submitted their paperwork already to Social Security and to All-Tax, and they pool the funds of lots of similarly situated people in terms of management. So the cost can be down, but each person has their own sub-trust. So the money isn't mixed together. If your person runs out of money, they don't get to use somebody else's money. If it's a first-party pooled special needs trust, we have all the same rules: payback to the state, anticipated disbursements, all of that stuff. If it's a third-party pooled special needs trust, then we have our third-party rules. And so we don't have anticipated disbursements, even though it has to be reported to the state. We don't have to pay them back when the beneficiary passes away. So I know it's really confusing. I wish we called first party and third party something different, but just remember, first party is money that is in the beneficiary's name. Maybe they worked and then they became disabled from some event. That money that they have in their own accounts could go into a first party special needs trust so they can get below the $2,000 asset limit. Third party trust, that's something that somebody set up in advance where the money skips over the beneficiary and goes directly into the trust. And then we have pooled trust run by charitable organizations, and those can be either first-party trusts or third-party trusts. So again, I'm Emily Kile here at the Kile Law Firm in Scottsdale, Arizona. We do obviously special needs planning, estate planning, guardianships and conservatorships, probates, and trust administration. And we hope to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening.